Hey everybody, Tyler Ross here at Ross Real Estate. Happy to have Dave Couk back in the office to do one of our regular check-ins. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here.
Probably hit them with the usual disclosures.
Yeah, so I'm with Integrity Home Mortgage, licensed with the NMLS, license number 399299 to be exact.
Yeah, sorry to bore you all with that, but we got to get things like that out of the way for disclosure purposes, part of the industry stuff. So Dave is a mortgage originator, a loan officer. What do you prefer?
Well, technically, if you go to the State Corporation Commission, it's mortgage loan originator is what is supposed to be on our business card. So that's what's on my card.
Perfect. Well, in addition to being an MLO, Dave has a lot of financial background when he was doing, is it fair to say, wealth management?
Yeah, 27 years.
Yeah, so he's always got a keen observations for what's going on in the market. So I'm going to ask him a couple questions for your benefit. And the first is lots happened in a year.
Oh, yeah.
Can you kind of give us a status update on kind of the difference between now and a year ago?
Absolutely. So the main thing is that a year ago this time, when we were at the end of 2023, the overwhelming consensus was that we could expect 3 to 5 interest rate cuts in the upcoming year, which is 2024. So in late December of 23, the markets adjusted for that. We saw the 10-year Treasury yield dip down to like 3.8 in that range because the markets were fully expecting those rate cuts. And consumers were too. We had, it was no mystery to you. You saw a lot of people sitting on the fence. They're like, I'm going to wait. And so we get into January of 2024, no rate cut. We get into February, and then it's March. And all of a sudden, rates started going back up because it became apparent that the Federal Reserve was in no hurry to cut rates, and they hadn't hit their inflation target. So as we went through the spring of last year, the market wasn't great because rates kept going up, and all of those folks sitting on the fence just kept sitting on the fence. We get to June, still no rate cut. All through the summer, no rate cut. And so I think where we are now is the consumers, by and large, have come to accept the fact that we're not going back to 3% rates, 4% rates, probably not even 5% anytime soon. And so those folks that need to move, their family's expanding and they're busting at the seams and they just have to get a bigger house. Folks that get transferred for work are just accepting the fact that rates between 6 and 7 is kind of the new norm right now. So that's kind of where we are.
During that time you speak of, you would expect interest rates to go up and for housing to stabilize or come down, but housing prices continued to go up at that same time. I'm getting the sense that that's starting to stabilize a little bit, but I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball.
Right.
I'm sure the same advice you would give now is the same you would a year ago, but talking to people that are trying to time the market or are trying to wait for interest rates to come down, what do you have to say to them?
Well, so there is no timing the market. Nobody has a crystal ball, as you said. But one of the numbers that I saw recently that is very telling is that the last few years we've been tracking about 1.9 million new household formations each year. But if you look simultaneously at the number of housing units being created by the building industry, we're only tracking about 1 to 1.1 million housing units. So we have a supply and demand imbalance that we've had for quite some while. I mean, I've been hearing agents complain about a lack of inventory for the last 10 years, but that imbalance is not being corrected at all because builders are not keeping up with household formation. And now, because so many people are sitting on 3 and 4% mortgage rates, the inventory that you would normally see from people selling their house, a lot of people are just kind of like, I really don't know if I want to sell and go to a 6.5, mortgage rate when I'm sitting on a 3% rate. So that has added to the suppression of supply. So prices keep going up. The analogy I used this week was, think of it as a slow moving train. You get on at this station and you pay X. You wait to the next station, your ticket price is a little higher because the train is not getting in reverse and coming back. It just keeps moving. And expectations are for housing prices this year to move up in the 4% range. There's no reason why that won't happen. So that's kind of where we are. Get on the train or miss it.
Yeah, and to speak to inventory, we are still very tight in Fauquier County. As of this morning, there are 135 houses for sale, and some portion of those are paper homes that have not been built yet, that the builder is just hasn't even pulled a permit. And then some other portion of those are not move-in ready because of whatever the condition is. So effectively, if I was to venture a guess, there are probably 100 houses in Fauquier County that are ready to move into today, and the majority of them are over $500,000, and even a sizable portion over $1 million. So if you're looking to buy a house, I think it's always the time is right now, especially if you can afford the monthly payment and you're not subject to having to sell the home on a particular time.
Right. Yeah. If you can afford to buy a home and you qualify, it beats the hell out of paying rent and throwing money out the window because prices just aren't coming backwards. They may stabilize some, but you're not going to, anyone expecting a massive drop or fall off in price. It's just not in the cards because the supply demand imbalance is just not getting corrected. And it's just economics 101. I mean, if you only took one economics course, you understand supply and demand, and there is way more demand than there is supply.
Yeah, and I do think, as you say, as people are accepting the new normal of what the interest rates are, and we're not going to see 2.5%, 3% anytime soon, I think that is pushing a couple of people off the fence. And as rates go from 7 into the mid and low 6s, we're seeing a few people more willing to enter themselves into this market. It's hard to jump from 2.875 to 7.25, but 3.5 to 6.25, you start seeing a little bit more activity. So our office pipeline is starting to get more listings into it. So we hope to provide a little bit of inventory relief just over the next couple of weeks out of our office.
We've seen mortgage rates have been coming down a little bit. The 10-year Treasury yield has dropped. I mean, we kind of peaked, I think, around mid-January. The 10-year Treasury got up to like 4.8 something, and now it's dropped below 4.2. So, that's more than 0.5%. Translated into mortgage rates. And so we have seen a pickup in activity pretty significant. As a company, we had a pretty big February. We had a lot of closings in February, much greater than February last year. So we're tracking more loan closings. We're seeing more activity. And I think it's because of what we talked about sooner, people just accepting that rates in the 6s, that's kind of the new norm. And if I wait, rates probably won't come down that much, but housing prices are going to continue to go up.
Anecdotally speaking, from your personal experience, are you seeing more loan applications coming in right now?
Yes, my phone has been has been going off quite actively. The last couple of weeks, I've seen a significant pickup in activity, and so I think spring buying season, at least from what I can feel, seems to be getting ready to go. People are tired of this cold weather and they're ready to get out. Yeah. So anyway, I think I hesitate to say it's going to be great again like it was before COVID, but I feel pretty confident that we're going to see a lot more activity than we did this time last year. Yeah, I think this spring is going to be stronger than last spring.
I get that sense also. You go a few weeks over the winter time and it's always a little bit slower than usual. And, every February as real estate agents, we all start scratching our heads like, are we going to make it? Are there enough people moving and selling and buying? But suddenly in the last couple of days, my phone has started ringing off the hook. So I believe that we're turning a corner, an inflection point into the market, and we're going to see a lot of activity this spring. So if you are going to get in the market, it looks like we're going to have more sellers and more buyers, which probably means more of the same of what we've seen.
Yeah, my number one piece of advice has always been, and it's even more important now than ever, get with your mortgage loan officer and get pre-qualified before you get in his car and start looking at properties. You wouldn't believe the number of things that pop up unexpectedly that people just aren't aware of. When you're getting multiple offers on a property, the list agent has an obligation to assess all of these offers and help the seller determine which offer makes the most sense. And a lot of times what can be the difference between having your offer accepted is the lender, the loan officer, making the call to the list agent and saying, hey, I've spent a bunch of time with my buyer and he is very well qualified. I have all his documents. We've gotten pre-approval. We're ready to go and we can close in 3 weeks. That in and of itself can help put your offer at the top of the stack. Yeah. Right? Because you're the list agent, you know. What are you looking for?
Exactly that. It's a team effort on behalf of the buyer's agent and the buyer's mortgage loan originator, and they can put a listing agent at ease, effective communication and information, and that makes the listing agent's job selling your clients, your buyer, you as buyer's offer to their seller client, which is really important.
Because you don't want to look bad and have tell your seller, oh, this is the best offer. You take it and 2 weeks into it, the deal goes sideways because that lender didn't really thoroughly vet the person and find out that there were some collections in the credit or that there's some property that wasn't disclosed and now there's another liability. There's all kinds of things that pop up. So it's critical to have a clear path as you're making that offer and trying to win a deal going forward.
Price and terms are not always the priority for a home seller. Assurances generally are. And when I know someone like Dave is on the other side of a transaction versus Joe Schmo who works 9 to 5 out in Idaho or Colorado, and I can't talk to them, I can't see them, that makes me nervous and makes a seller nervous. So having a good teamwork on the buyer side, people that know what they're doing while you may not have the best offer in terms of contract price, closing date, you can sometimes have the best offer being the most reliable offer.
Well, there you go. Well, I think that's kind of where we are right now. So as you point out, and I agree with you, nobody has a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen, but activity is definitely picking up and prices don't seem to be wanting to come backwards. So get on the train. If we can help, we'd love to help. I'm Dave Couk, mortgage loan originator at Integrity Home Mortgage.
Yeah, and if you're out there shopping, these houses are going to hit the market this spring, and they're likely to go fast as more buyers are entering into the market as well. So being prepared to pull the trigger on an offer right away, sometimes within hours of a house listing, is going to be to your benefit. So get with your realtor, get with your MLO, and be ready to roll. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thanks, Grace.